Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Merve Hokamp. She's an executive and business coach, sales leader, ex-Google, startup advisor, founder of Leadrise Coaching. Welcome to the show, Merve.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
You are welcome. You are welcome to the show, Merva. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about the secrets of successful leadership. But before we come to the secrets of successful leadership, let's talk about the secret of your success to this point. Help us understand a bit about your journey, and your journey can be a lot of learning for a lot of people who are looking at this space.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks again for having me. And you were saying that I'm traveling to India again, which is great news because I've been to India before and I've always wanted to go back. So this is my opportunity. So again, thanks for having me. So my journey, my name is Merve Hokamp, and I am an executive and business coach and the founder of Leadrise Coaching. I am originally from Istanbul, Turkey myself, and have lived in various different countries. And as of 12 years ago, I've settled in Dublin, Ireland, with my husband and two wonderful kids. In terms of then my career journey, I have founded Leadrise Coaching. I am an ICF accredited executive coach, and through my coaching, I help leaders maximize their potential and to find new growth opportunities for themselves. I myself have a leadership and management background. As you were mentioning there before, I was with Google for about 11 years, and I led various teams, sales teams, account management teams, customer success teams, cloud teams, partnerships teams, etc. So I've kind of made my way around within Google, and I started my career in management consulting. I have an MBA, did my MBA in France and Singapore. So management and leadership is they are things that I have experience in myself, and I also like to think a lot about it and write a lot about it, and therefore that's why I decided to build a whole business around it to help more leaders and to spread the love, so to speak.
Right, right, Marva. Thanks for that. And now let's coming to the topic of the secrets of successful leadership. Your mission is to empower leaders to achieve their professional goals and drive impactful change. Now, I want to understand from this perspective is that what does this mean? Is this do you mean by professional goals in impactful change? Do they go hand in hand, or these are two different sides of that one needs to decide at the very beginning which way to go, which one to achieve?
Yeah, good question. Thank you for asking. I think they definitely go hand in hand. So people who come to me, people who I work with, who I partner with, they are at the beginning, let's say, of a journey of change. There's something that is compelling that they're wanting to change, and we want that, right? Because just wanting that, aspiring to do that in itself is kind of giving you that first inertia, first movement, after which we get momentum by working together. So that's the change piece. And then the impact piece, again, I want to have impact in the world. Leaders want to have impact in the world. I want to help leaders have impact in the world. Ultimately, this is what we're here to do. That's the mission. So we want it to be impactful change as opposed to change for the sake of change. And then, in terms of the goals often are around change. And what it really boils down to is growth. So people, they want to have growth. And I put this growth into three buckets. There are three things that often they are wanting to grow in. The first one is business impact. So speaking of impact, they want to grow their business impact, whether it is, a business owner who is at the beginning of their journey with their business and they're building things out, and they might not, for example, have so much budget to grow. So then we discuss, okay, so what are your growth goals? What's the impact that you're wanting to achieve? And what kind of resources do you have? And what are certain things that you can do? What are your options? What are some opportunities for you? So that's the first bucket, is business impact. Again, for business owners and as well corporate leaders, they are wanting to succeed and have impact with their teams, with their business. The second bucket then is teams. So leaders, they build teams. They want to grow their teams in size, in skill set, in impact. And again, that's a discussion that we have around impact, around change, around growth, as to, are you first right now building a team from scratch, whether you're a corporate leader or a business owner? Do you have a team? And then there, for example, certain challenges. Some people have maybe stagnated. Some people have saturated their learnings, and therefore they might need to move on, or they might need to be, stretched into more scope and different roles. So that's the discussion that we have around, again, impact, change, growth. And then the third bucket is they want to grow themselves. So whether, again, they're corporate leaders, they want to change in their role. It could be a scope. It could be that they're wanting to get a promotion for all the amazing effort and amazing achievements that they've had. Or they want change in that they have maybe plateaued and they're looking for something else. They might be wanting to build their own business. They might be wanting to build a portfolio career themselves. And so then we have that conversation. Again, similar for business owners. They're wanting to have some sort of they have a mission. They are wanting to have some sort of impact, some sort of change in the world. And again, we kind of identify what that is and then work towards those goals.
Right. But now let's understand from a
I think your connection might be breaking up. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, let me see. Is it better now?
Oh, it's much better now. Thank you.
Okay. So let's go with this. So, Marwa, in the backdrop of the great resignation and quiet quitting that's very much on, the role of leaders themselves have come into great question. And many have gone to the extent of saying that it's the leadership which is in crisis. And in fact, some have even said, why not automate the leader, the role of the CEO itself, rather than, and one company also did it, one gaming company in Hong Kong, if I remember. I haven't seen the last results, but the last I read was that it was not doing that bad. And it looks like that, because the leadership is facing so many crises in itself, that we might see some more of automation going forward. Amidst all these things, how your job becomes much difficult, because here we are talking about the aspirations of a leader, whereas and a lot of leaders, we have to be very true about it, a lot of leaders want a lot of growth for themselves. And if their growth is linked to the bottom line, their growth is linked to the profit, their growth is also linked to how much the founders or the promoters are making. So I want to understand, in this backdrop, I assume that all are very good people, good human beings. How do you think, or how do you think you will be solving these problems or questions when they come to you about achieving their professional goals as well as making that impactful change? That is why I asked you initially, I ask you again in this manner, so that it is not a question just to leaders, it is a question to a lot of budding leaders, a lot of people who want to uh, make profit, but also want to go with purpose. It can be difficult for them. They are very young people, very talented people. Any sort of guidance will help a lot of people all across the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is very topical, the great resignation. And also, of course, to add to that, there's tech layoffs. And these are experiments that have also actually been done in the past. Google actually has done an experiment. Was it in 2000s? I can't remember the exact date right now, but they did an experiment where they said, like, okay, especially middle management, maybe they're not necessarily needed because we're hiring the best people anyway. They're self-driven, they have ambitions, they have goals, so they should be able to self-manage. And so let's get rid of people managers. So they did that experiment. I think maybe it lasted 6 months or so. And then they realized that, in fact, they do really need that role of a people manager, role of a leader, because there's a got to be somebody that the team they look up to, the team get their communication from. So there's that communication between maybe upper management or the very like top senior leadership to then the team. They also need somebody to manage the psychological safety within the team so that everybody kind of feels empowered. Everybody understands what the expectations are. Everybody understands what the goals are. They need somebody to orchestrate the work that is being distributed and that is being asked of them. And so they realized, okay, so this experiment didn't go according to our initial hypothesis. Our hypothesis was wrong, and therefore we're going to continue, and we're going to have these people managers. And that the impact of people management, the impact of leadership, is still to this day the same, and if anything, even more instrumental and even more important, I would say, because times are changing and we have AI, which I'm a big fan, that is changing the way that we do business. That is not necessarily only automating certain things, but also augmenting some of the human capabilities and the human speed and being able to achieve things. So I'm very excited about that. The way that we are setting up work, the way that we're structuring work, the way that we are building systems around work is changing. And therefore, I think we need really strong leaders to then be able to orchestrate and rally people. Ultimately is the most important thing and the most foundational thing in an organization. So we need leaders to be able to rally and empower people to be able to achieve these big mission and vision goals. So that's one piece maybe of an answer to your question. The other piece is, what can then like leaders do? As you were saying, some of them are young, some of them are potentially aspiring leaders. And I would say maybe 2 or 3 things there. When I do my own leadership programs, one-to-one coaching, group coaching, and I also offer a corporate training, I kind of bucket this in maybe 3 ways or 3 elements. One is self, the first one. So leaders, they need to first get to know and understand themselves. So what are their values? What are their strengths? What are their desires and their goals? What's the impact that they're wanting to achieve in the world? And what are their limiting beliefs? So we do work on that too, is what are they saying they maybe can't do? What are they saying they're not good at, for example, right? Like, so those areas as well we touch on. So it's really important for leaders to first understand themselves and tune into what their strengths are, what their offerings are, to then be able to like build a team and build a purpose and build that impact on top of. The second thing is the people around you. So that's your network, your support systems, and your team. So as a leader, what kind of a team are you going to build? So again, we have these this new AI or these new systems and these new platforms. So then where we need people that's changing, and that has changed. So what kind of people skill sets do you need, and what people do you need to put into those positions to be able to fulfill those needs? what kind of networks and support systems do you have? Do you have champions? Do you have sponsors? Do you have cheerleaders in rooms that you're not in, where decisions are being made? So decisions are being made around you about your own career and about your own progression. Decisions are being made potentially about something that impacts your business in rooms that you might not yourself be in. So you want to have a representative, somebody who will root for you, somebody who will support you, somebody who will champion you in those rooms. So it's important to have to understand that, like, people mapping the people around you, especially if you're an aspiring leader or a leader aspiring to do more. And then thirdly, it's the world around you. So again, to your point and to your question, we look at the market. And at the moment, with a lot of the leaders that I'm working with, there are great opportunities, but the opportunities aren't in places that we might traditionally think they exist, right? Like, it might not necessarily be a big promotion, but it might be, you know, going to another company that is potentially a different size than the one that they're currently in, and having more impact, having a wider maybe sphere of influence for them. It might be something that they are building on top of, again, the new AI, which is kind of the cool kid and the new cool kid in the block. So what are some things that they can do within, again, their existing setup and or outside of their setup, so that they can have more impact, so that they can have a wider scope and they can have more exposure? So we look at the market, we look at the competition, so their own competition as leaders, and then competition for their business, for their teams, for whatever it is that they're building for their organizations. We look at systems within the world around them. And again, a lot of those systems at the moment and processes are driven by artificial intelligence, and they might also be driven by robots maybe that are replacing some of the work that was traditionally being done by humans. So what does that mean? So maybe they won't be the leader of a, let's say, just as an example, a customer service team, if that has actually been relocated or reshifted to AI robots. But it will be that they will be the new strategy lead, for example. So does that mean that they have to build new skill set? Does that mean that they have to transfer their current skill set into that new area, for instance? So that's kind of like a conversation that we have around what are some new opportunities. Let's follow the trend, and so let's flex and let's adapt and let's change so that you can continue to have impact and potentially in other areas. And that is kind of the change that we want to achieve, and the change that we want to empower them to own.
Right, Marva. Now, in terms of, you talk about leaders making a lot of mistakes day in and day out. I want to understand what are these mistakes that you talk about, so that, a lot of them who get to hear this, they can correct those mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's of course, we're all human. We all make mistakes. So I think before I answer this specific question, I will say that I love it when people say, I have made these mistakes. I think the most important thing is to understand that that was a mistake, that didn't really, work out. And we need to embrace our mistakes. We need to embrace our failures, celebrate them, so that we can learn from them. So that's, I think, like the first maybe school of thought that I want to throw out there. In terms of, typical maybe, mistakes that leaders might make is, I think maybe the first one is around hiring. Sometimes we prioritize speed. And again, that comes from maybe stress or certain pressures that you might have from upper management or in the team. There are certain targets. You really need to hire people so that, hopefully they can hit the ground running and they can actually contribute to that big target that you're wanting to achieve. So we might prioritize, oftentimes, unconsciously or subconsciously, speed over sometimes the rightness of the candidate. But in the long term, or even, midterm, long term, that becomes counterproductive, because if the person is not right for the team, they might be brilliant in so many ways, but they're not right for the team. They're not right for the role. They're not right for the company. then, it creates all sorts of problems, and it might actually compromise the team performance, not just that individual's performance. So I would say one of the big mistakes that I see happening, and again with leaders that I work with too, some of whom have enormous years of experience and they're brilliant, they just kind of in the day-to-day think okay, need to hire, and then they end up maybe not hiring the people who are right for the role. So that's the first mistake. The second mistake, I think, is, and that's something that I have learned also in my career, it's so simple and yet deeply profound, is listen more, talk less. You might be able to tell that I myself am a talker. So and it's so hard too, because somebody, you're the leader of a team, presumably you have the most knowledge, or you have the highest seniority, you have experience, so they come to you with problems. And in a one-to-one situation, they say, here's, I'm having a problem with this. So then you might be inclined to say, okay, great, I've heard enough. I know exactly what you need to do. Here's the step-by-step thing that you need to do. I've got your back. Let me hook you up with this person. Let me introduce you to this person. Let me figure it out for you, and let me solve that problem. Oftentimes when I would have done that, for example, myself, it was a mistake that I made, and I see other leaders make a lot. When I've done that in the past, people have said, okay, my reports have said, okay, that was helpful. Thanks for that. So it's helpful. But when I have switched to just listening mode, they come to me with a problem, and I just lean in and I say, okay, well, what do you think is causing that? What might you be able to do? What are your options? What are some opportunities? What is this problem a good solution for? Who might you talk to? What have you done in the past that has helped, etc.? So just really powerful questioning, and just listening and sitting with them and helping them soundboard ideas or be a thinking partner to them. It's actually a lot more powerful. So at the end of that conversation, I'm thinking, okay, so I'm useless. I haven't really offered anything. I haven't really given them guidance. But really what ends up happening is that they have themselves now felt empowered. They have themselves started thinking. They have themselves understood what the issue is and are able to offer solutions. And they're going to go out there and make their own mistakes if they end up making mistakes, or try their own different solutions and find a solution or find a way forward themselves, and be able to replicate it in the future too. So we've kind of just trained them and trusted them. So it kind of gives them that level of trust, that level of sense of ownership, that level of empowerment. So definitely listen more, talk less, and don't add your 2 cents. That's the other one is, they say stuff and then, oh, let me add my 2 cents. Just don't add your 2 cents. Just trust the team, give them enough training, give them enough support, and then, let them figure it out themselves. It's going to be a lot more impactful in the future. Another, I think, big mistake maybe that I see leaders and aspiring leaders make is that they really use maybe their title, or feel that they need to depend on a title or a shiny status to grab that authority. But when in reality, leadership isn't just about your title. Sure, it can help. That's great. It's it kind of maybe legitimizes you, or it can serve as a shortcut sometimes when you say, I lead this team, and that's kind of the capacity that I'm showing up with today when I talk to you or when I negotiate with you. But in reality, everybody's a leader, and everybody has the opportunity to demonstrate leadership. So it's often an earned right too. So before maybe you become a manager, before you become a founder, a business owner, before you become a VP, CEO, etc., you really need to demonstrate that skill set and demonstrate that potential to then get to that point and be able to, hit the ground running. So as opposed to saying, well, it would be hard for me to lead this team because you see, I'm not a manager, or I don't have that title, I don't have that status. Understanding influence and leadership without, quote unquote authority is the real gem, and we often overlook that. maybe I'll stop there for now. I could go on and on. There are lots of mistakes, and we should make them because I think they're great. They're great learnings and great opportunities for growth.
Absolutely great learning for a lot of these leaders indeed, Marwa, and I'm sure they will learn from this episode a lot of things. Now, in terms of a leader, you talk about a grounded leader, and nowadays a lot of these terms have also other terms have also conscious leadership, heart, heart leadership, heart centered leadership, and so many other ways they have put it. Everyone almost, I guess, means the same thing but different terms. In terms of a leader, how does he or she decide what is the right sort of leadership that they would want to go? You talked about being a strong leader so that you can rally around people around you. That almost sounds like a political leader if you want to be that strong. But within an organization, so that is where it can be a lot of dilemma for someone who is just starting out, or what sort of a leader I should try to be, because at the end of the day, everyone is good, everyone has good heart. So what is your take on this?
Yes, absolutely. Everybody is good. Everybody has a good heart. And I think we should lean into that diversity too. So different people have different leadership styles. And I think again, in the work that we do around the self, that's part of the work, is understanding what your own values, core value systems are, and what your own strengths are, and what your leadership style is, and to be able to then communicate that to the team, and to be able to use those strengths to your advantage and to the team's advantage. So the offer here is certainly not that everybody should kind of be the same kind of leader, or have the same style, or have the same sort of playbook of leadership. But what I would say, and when I talk about that grounded leadership, and I think when people talk about conscious leadership, heart centered, I think you said leadership, compassionate leadership, servant leadership, etc., I think the foundation, and it can be different for everybody, but the fact remains that the foundation is that, maybe the plain analogy of you need to wear your oxygen mask first. Because when you're a leader, you are juggling a lot of different balls, right? And I'm sure the leaders, they have the capacity, they do a great job. But when you're juggling a lot of different balls, and there's different pressures from different people from your team, you're often sandwiched a little bit. You could be your team, it could be your bosses, or if you're the owner of the business yourself, it could be your advisors, your VCs, your investors, your board, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of let's say there's lots of pressure, and you can let that get to you unless you know how to ground yourself. So first, I think the most important thing is self-care, even though that might sound a little bit counterintuitive, because we talk about this servant leadership. Oh, we should be serving our communities, we should be serving our teams, etc., which school of thought that I definitely subscribe to and buy. But the fundamental thing, and the first step, should always be that you take care of yourself first as a leader, because that's when you actually win as a team, as a business. And it's not just benefit to you, but it's benefit to everybody else around you. So different people have different ways of doing that. For me right now, in the summer, I do a daily swim, for example. That's my time, just me, and I'm in the water too. So there's, not much distraction, and I can just be in my own thoughts, be in my own head. I can relax, recharge. In the winter, I do daily yoga. Some people wake up early in the morning before the kids wake up, or before the world around them, I guess, like they wake up and they do their daily affirmations or meditation or whatever it might be for the person. For some people, it's socializing. For some people, it's isolating. But it's really, really important that leaders, individuals in general, really identify what it is that helps them reset, recharge the batteries, and do that consistently, ideally daily, right? Doesn't have to be a long time, to ground themselves, so that when they show up to work, to lead their teams, to present to their boards, to pitch their businesses, they can have that level of what I call groundedness to then rise from. So you root, you have to build strong roots to then rise.
Absolutely, to then rise. So we'll talk about Leadrise then. As the founder of Leadrise, so there is so much to learn from you, and there is you have this Leadrise coaching. What is it that people can uh, learn from you, get help from you in terms of as the founder of Leadrise coaching? Are there specific things that you do that people should know about?
Yes. So I have one-to-one coaching. So that's my VIP service, if you will. And so I meet with my clients to talk about their leadership challenges. Oftentimes, as we've talked about, it is around growth. So they want to grow their business impact, they want to grow their teams, or they want to, grow personally. They want to advance their own careers. So we talk about what the challenges, what the current challenges are, what the current setup is, what the current reality is, what their goals are, and then we talk about some options. What are certain next steps that they can do? What are certain opportunities that they can tap into? What are certain positioning opportunities for themselves that they can lead with, so that they can be positioned well for that next opportunity when it does show up. So that's my one-to-one coaching, and I work with corporate leaders, and I also work with business owners. I also have group programs. They're also around leadership. So I have the Leadership Accelerator for Director Plus levels. And I also have an Aspiring Leaders program. So as I said, my philosophy is everybody really is a leader. You don't necessarily need to have that position or have that like authority shiny title. If you're aspiring to be a leader, if you're aspiring to be a manager, then you can work with me to again see what some opportunities for you might be, and how to make sure that you capitalize on them. So those are my programs, my leadership programs, group coaching programs. And then I also have some speaking and corporate trainings that I do. So those are more sort of customized, and again, for people managers, for management, for business growth, and for leadership growth. So those are maybe then you can tell that I like the rule of three. So the three buckets, the three areas that I offer services in a nutshell.
Wonderful. And what is the best way for them to connect with you?
So the best way is my website, probably in social media. So my website is www.leadrisecoaching, oneword.com. And on there, you can find out more about me, about my programs, about my services. I also have a ton of free resources there. So I have free worksheets and workbooks and playbooks and exercises about some of the things that we've talked about today, like leadership styles, for example, and how to build a growth mindset and how to grow a business, and how to lead a team and to manage some of the maybe challenges that come with that, like managing low performers, etc. So I have free resources on that. I also have some thought leadership articles, so you can check it out. And I'm also on social media. I'm very active on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is Merve Hokamp, like you can see on the screen. So you can find me there and follow me there. I post daily. And again, there's some thought leadership that I offer there. And there's also some different kinds of content from my musings around leadership and management and business that I offer there. So I'd love to be connected. And I'm also on Instagram at Leadrise Coaching, not quite as active, but I'm also present there. So happy to connect in any way that suits you.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. This was great.